Look, I'm going to be straight with you. The Blue Jays just made a move that nobody's talking about, and honestly, I think we're all sleeping on something big here. While everyone's distracted by the flashy signings and the big-name trades, Toronto quietly brought in an 18-year-old Cuban right-hander named Alieski Torres for just $200,000. Yeah, you heard that right. $200,000. And here's the thing that's got me fired up about this kid. Torres is sitting 90 to 94 on his fastball already, at 18 years old. Think about that for a second. The league average fastball velocity right now is between 94 and 95 miles per hour. This teenager from Cuba is already knocking on that door, and he's got years of development ahead of him. When pitchers hit their physical prime in their mid-20s, we could be looking at someone touching 96, 97, maybe even higher. For a $200,000 investment, that's insane value if it pans out. But the velocity isn't even the most interesting part. What really caught my attention is how this kid throws. I was talking to someone who's seen Torres pitch, and they told me something that made my ears perk up. They said he throws like Yesavage. When I pressed them on what they meant, they explained it's all about the arm angle. Torres delivers the ball from a near-overhand slot, similar to Trey Yesavage's 64-degree release angle. If you've watched Yesavage pitch, you know what kind of deception that creates for hitters. That ball is coming from up top, and it's a completely different look than what most hitters see on a regular basis. Now let me put this in perspective. Yesavage isn't some random pitcher we're comparing Torres to. We're talking about the Blue Jays' top-ranked prospect, a guy who's thrown 239 pitches in the majors already, sitting at nearly 95 miles per hour with his four-seamer, mixing in a slider and splitter that keep hitters guessing. When you throw from that high angle, your fastball has natural ride, your breaking balls have sharper depth, and everything plays up because of the deception. Hitters struggle to pick up the spin, struggle to track the ball out of the hand, and by the time they realize what's coming, it's already past them. Torres isn't the only one throwing from this angle either. Look around the league and you'll find guys like Jeremiah Estrada at 66 degrees, Bradley Bralock at 62, Alex Vesia at 65. These aren't household names to casual fans, but if you follow pitching closely, you know these guys are effective precisely because of that arm slot. It creates problems for hitters that standard three-quarters or sidearm deliveries don't create. The ball comes from a different plane, the movement looks different, and guys just don't see it as often. What excites me about Torres specifically is the combination of factors working in his favor. First, you've got the raw velocity that's already major league adjacent at 18. Second, you've got the arm angle that's proven to generate swing and miss at the highest level. Third, and this is crucial, scouts are saying he's got a chance to develop both his slider and changeup. That's the key word there, chance. It means the raw stuff is there, it just needs refinement. That's exactly what player development systems are built for. You take a kid with natural arm talent, a projectable frame at 6'4" and 205 pounds, and you put him through a professional development program. If 2 out of 3 times that process fails, you've lost almost nothing. But when it works, you've got yourself a legitimate big league arm for essentially pocket change. Let's talk about his path to Toronto. Torres left Cuba in 2024 and trained at Chiqui Mejias's academy in Bonao, Dominican Republic. For those who don't know, that's one of the respected training grounds for Latin American prospects trying to make it to the majors. These academies are where raw talent gets refined, where kids learn professional routines, where they get exposure to scouts and teams. The fact that Torres impressed enough to get signed, despite being just 18, tells you that people who know pitching saw something real there. This wasn't a charity signing or a lottery ticket. Someone in the Blue Jays organization looked at this kid and said, "Yeah, we need to get him in our system now." The Blue Jays have been aggressive this offseason, and not just with Torres. They brought back Shane Bieber for another year. They added Cody Ponce and Dylan Cease to solidify the rotation. They traded for Chase Lee, signed Tyler Rogers and Jorge Alcala, picked up Spencer Miles through the Rule 5 draft, and added Selwyn Herkmans and Elian Guzman to minor league deals. That's a lot of pitching movement. And while the big names get the headlines, I'm telling you that Torres might end up being the most impactful move when we look back at this offseason in 3 or 4 years. Here's why I believe that. Development curves for pitchers are unpredictable, but we know certain things tend to hold true. Guys with natural arm strength tend to add velocity as they mature physically and learn to use their bodies more efficiently. Guys with good arm angles and natural deception tend to get better results than their pure stuff would suggest. And guys who are coachable and willing to develop secondary pitches tend to have longer, more successful careers than one-trick ponies. Torres checks every one of those boxes based on what we know so far. The upside scenario here is legitimately exciting. Imagine Torres adds 2 or 3 ticks to his fastball over the next few years as he fills out that frame and gets stronger. Now he's sitting 95 to 97 with the same overhand angle that makes Yesavage so tough. Then imagine he develops even an average slider and changeup. You're looking at a potential mid-rotation starter or high-leverage reliever who cost the organization basically nothing. Even if he tops out as a useful bullpen arm, that's a massive win for $200,000. Most draft picks never make the majors at all. What I love about this signing is it shows organizational philosophy. The Blue Jays aren't just throwing money at established names. They're hunting for value in every corner of the market. They're betting on their development staff to take raw materials and turn them into major league contributors. And they're willing to be patient with young talent, knowing that 18-year-old pitchers are years away from contributing but could pay massive dividends down the line. That's how sustainable winners are built. You mix the veteran acquisitions with the under-the-radar prospect additions, and eventually some of those prospects hit, and suddenly you've got cost-controlled talent producing at a high level. That's the dream. So yeah, everyone's talking about Cease and the other big moves. And those are important, don't get me wrong, but keep an eye on Alieski Torres. Remember that name. Because in a few years, when he's striking guys out in AAA or maybe even getting a cup of coffee in Toronto, people are going to act surprised. But if you've been paying attention, if you've been watching how this kid